Hello and welcome to the Dream Team Professor podcast. My name is Scott, and in this episode, we're going to do a quick preview of Gameweek 37, the final game week of the Sun Dream Team season, with an FA Cup final between Manchester City and Manchester United. Just the one game this week. If you've been following along for the season, thank you very much for your support, and I hope you will follow along for the Dream Team Euros as well. If you're not already subscribed, please do hit subscribe or follow if you're listening on audio platforms. But we'll get started with game week 37. So just the one fixture, like I said, Man City, Man United, FA Cup final. The deadline to get your transfers done is 2 p.m., 1 hour before the 3 p.m. kickoff. And we will have two new transfers to use specifically for this game. City have just won the Premier League. I'm sad to say, had a great time watching Arsenal in that final game of the season, but obviously it just wasn't to be. A 3-1 win against West Ham. And we'll look at the point scorers from that game in the next slide. City haven't lost in 35 matches. If you exclude the Real Madrid draw that went to pens. They've won their previous 3 meets against Manchester United. And we're going to have a look back also at the match centre from FF Stuff for those last 2 meets in the Premier League throughout the season. So have a look and see if there's any players that perform particularly well in those matches between Man City and Man United. United have had back-to-back wins against Newcastle and Brighton, so they've bounced back from a poor run of form. Only one clean sheet in the last 6 meets between City and Man United, and that was Manchester City with a 3-0 win 2 matches ago. City have won 5 of the last 6 meets. There's been no draws, and Manchester United have won 1. And there's been 19 goals for City versus United's 8 goals. So pretty heavy landslide for City. I don't think we expected much else recently, but we'll have a look at some Dream Team stats as well from these two teams. So on the right-hand side is just a match centre from the Dream Team app or website. Phil Foden tops the charts. He's the highest point scorer in the Dream Team game at the minute. He's 3 points ahead of Erling Haaland in second. But this is broken down into just Man City and Man United players here. But Bruno Fernandes would be the next highest scoring player from Manchester City and Manchester United. He's on 320 points for the season. I think that puts him 6th overall in the rankings as well. So Bruno Fernandes having a really, really good season. Julian Alvarez is there with 280 points behind that, but a lot of his points were scored early on. He has had a few points off the bench recently, but since KDB has come back, his minutes have been reduced a fair bit. Rodri has had a really, really good season with quite a few attacking returns. We'll mention him later in the video. And Bernardo Silva behind him, 7 points behind. These two have been quite vital as it comes to the end of the season. Garnacho up there with 226 points, but I can't imagine too many people are going to be opting to go for him over a City midfielder. Vardiol's then there with 223, but a lot of his form has come quite recently, and I'll go over the top point scorers from these two teams over the last 6 game weeks, where we'll see Vardiol is the highest scoring out both sides. Dalot, 220 points. He's actually had a really good season, to be honest with you, Dalot. Best of a bad bunch, I'd say, in that defence that's been shot with injuries. And then Doku down there with 212 points, who has been an absolute bonus machine. So looking at the last 6 game weeks, on the left-hand side, we've got a graphic from ffstuff.co.uk. The highest scoring players over the last 6 game weeks. But we're only interested in the City and the United players from this chart. So Vardiol tops the list with 78 points over the last 6 game weeks. He's obviously been on this scoring run. I think he's got a couple of assists in there as well. He's the 3rd highest scoring player over the last 6 game weeks in the game. Erling Haaland is there next with 69. Bruno Fernandes is on 68. So Bruno Fernandes has been keeping the pace with Erling Haaland with his good form. And then De Bruyne with 68 points as well, exactly the same as Bruno Fernandes. So they'll be 3 fairly popular players as well. Vardiol also in quite a lot of teams at the moment. Phil Foden actually down there with 56 points, which still isn't bad, but his form's been pretty good throughout the season. So we'll give him a bit of a pass for this last 6 game weeks. He's still done incredibly well in the last fixture. Kyle Walker with 55, and then Akanji with 54 over the last 6 game weeks. Right, we'll have a look at the Man City West Ham fixture, as much as it pains me, from the last game week. The fixture that crowned Manchester City champions. It's quite funny actually. I've managed to appear in on Match of the Day. I think the Sun website, Sky Sports News, a clip of me at the Emirates. Within the first 2 minutes, I'd seen, or someone in front of me showed me that Man City had already gone ahead, and the cameras were looking at us just at the reaction when we saw that City had scored straight away. And I can't even say that I was surprised, to be honest with you. So Foden scored in the 2nd minute, then in the 18th minute, and then Rodri in the 59th to seal it. And there was a glimmer of hope when Kudus scored that bicycle kick in the 42nd. But yeah, like I say, it was never really going to happen. We'll start with Ortega in goal. So he continued in goal with Ederson out with his injury, broken eye socket. So Ortega will be playing in the FA Cup final. It's been the same back line for the last 2 matches with Walker, Vardiol, Diaz and Akanji. There was the Fulham game 3 matches ago where Walker was dropped. Akanji went to right back and it was Diaz and Ake in the middle. But then Ake went off injured and Kyle Walker came straight back on. So I imagine it's going to be a fairly similar lineup to this one. I'd be surprised if it was anything other than Walker, Vardiol, Diaz. And then I reckon it could be one of either Akanji or Ake, but we'll wait and see. Pep's capable of anything. Kovacic was left out and Doku came into this one. So they opted just to have Rodri as the sort of sitter. And then Doku went to the left, bringing Foden more central. And Foden done really well again. So 17 points, 2 goals, a bonus point. He was only 1 ppm of hitting 3 bonus and managed 4 shots on target as well. So rounding off the season in style for Phil Foden, but he's in most people's team. 3 points clear as the highest scoring player in the game. 8-point average doesn't put him much behind Erling Haaland, and he's got 26 goals, 12 assists for the season, which is just an unbelievable return from Phil Foden. Kevin De Bruyne, no attacking returns in this one, but he did finish up on 8 points, 3 shots on target. He had tackles, a big chance created, and a bonus. He's on 6 goals, 19 assists for the season. Looks like he's going to finish with the most assists in the game, despite only playing about half a season. Haaland dropped a 2-pointer and was the lowest scoring player from Manchester City, tied with Ortega. There seems to be no in between with Haaland at the minute. He's either banging them in or he's blanking. He's on 38 goals, 9 assists for the season. I'd still expect him to be the highest captain player for that cup final. Looking at ownership for the less popular midfielders, and there's a few that are doing really well actually. So Bernardo Silva is now up to 26.1 in the top 1K. Rodri 17.9, and then Doku still down at 2.4 as a differential. So Bernardo got 7 points. He's someone that I bought in this week. He got 2 assists in this game, bonus points, and that puts him on 11 goals, 10 assists. I was pretty pleased with that if it wasn't for the person that I took out, but we'll mention my team a little bit later. Rodri, 10 points, grabbed another goal, bonus, 2 shots on target. He now has 9 goals, 14 assists for the season, which is an incredible return for Rodri. Last season, he only had 4 goals, 7 assists. And in the season before that, 7 goals, 2 assists. So really is performing a bit better for attacking returns. I know Kovacic wasn't playing in this game, but I do have a feeling that maybe Kovacic being in the lineup is helping Rodri over the course of the season to get a few more attacking returns. And then Doku, so 2.4% owned, managed 11 points from this game. Can be a rotation risk, so it's a tough one to decide whether or not to bring him in. But congratulations to those that did. He got 11 points and an assist. And like he often does when he's on the pitch, does really well for the player performance marks and bonus points. So came with 3 bonus points, 10 player performance marks, so not even far off of getting that maximum bonus. Also 5 tackles in this game as well, which is quite impressive for him. 5 goals, 12 assists for the season. And he's tied 4th most bonus for the season with Phil Foden. He has the 2nd most successful dribbles in the game, despite not starting every single match. Captaincy this week, Erling Haaland was 79.9% capped in the top 1K. Phil Foden was the 2nd highest from Man City at 0.6. Bernardo at 0.2, and KDB at 0.1. So that might give you an indication of if people are going different with the captaincy next week, maybe this is how they might seem to do it. Haaland probably will take up the bulk, and then maybe it could be split between Foden, Bernardo, and KDB potentially. But maybe there'll be a few differences looking at this week's scores. Quick look at Manchester United, although I don't think their players are as appealing, but they came away with a 2-0 win against Brighton. Brighton, who have just announced that they'd be parting with their manager. United kept a clean sheet in this one. Their last clean sheet came 12 matches ago. Dalot came away with 14 points, grabbed the goal, 14 points, 3 goals, 6 assists for the season. And he's the 6th highest scoring defender in the game. So he has actually had a really, really good Dream Team season. My best memory is that screamer that he scored when I played that part of the bus. You had Lisandro Martinez back starting in the team. He had a bench appearance before that. Managed 59 minutes in this one. So I think that's a big boost ahead of the final. I probably would expect Lisandro Martinez to start. Bruno Fernandes did only manage 2 points in this game, but he's been United's best asset this season, hands down. 6th highest scoring player in the game, 15 goals, 13 assists for the season, on penalties as well. If you had him, you'd be leaving him there, and you might even consider bringing him in for the final. I'll show you how he performed in the previous 2 clashes with Man City. And then Onana, 8 points, obviously because of the clean sheet. Just the 2 saves in this match, but yeah, he's finished up on as the highest scoring goalkeeper on the game with 201 points, mostly down to making so many saves. 190 saves for the season, and second place for saves only had 156. So he has been a busy boy this season. A quick look at the previous meets. So Haaland has scored 3 goals and got 1 assist across the last 2 matches with 27 points in total, 5 shots on target and 1 big chance created. So he leads the way, or just behind one other player actually, but right up there for the most points scored. Phil Foden, he has the most points across these last 2 meets. So Foden finished with 30 points across the 2 games. 6 shots on target, 3 goals, and 4 bonus points. So if we look back to game week 10, you had Haaland scoring 2 and Phil Foden scoring 1. And Erling Haaland grabbed an assist in that match, 19 points, whereas Foden got just the 10. But in the second meet in game week 26, you had Foden with a brace scoring 20 points, 3 bonus, 4 shots on target, and Erling Haaland scored in the 91st minute of that match. So both Phil Foden and Erling Haaland scored really, really well across both meets this season. So they could potentially be the top 2 captaincy picks. Haaland, if you're probably leading or looking to play safe, and then if you're looking for something a little bit different, Phil Foden is just going to show that he is up there as a decent captaincy pick as well. Kevin De Bruyne, I would actually probably put him as my 3rd choice captain. So I'm probably going to go with Haaland, to be honest. If I was chasing, I'd probably go Foden. But behind that, I think KDB could be a decent option. But he did only get 4 points in the game that he played this season. So he was injured for the first fixture. So in game week 10, he didn't play, and you had Alvarez playing in his place. But in game week 26, De Bruyne played, but only finished with 4 points. However, in the game before, it was the match against Luton where City went crazy, and Kevin De Bruyne came with 4 assists in that match. So maybe he just ran out of returns for the week. Bernardo Silva, 1 assist, 15 points across the 2. But he actually done pretty well for bonus in these fixtures. So he's only 1 player performance mark off of max bonus in the game week 26 fixture, and then 1 player performance marks off of getting free bonus in the other fixture. So heavily involved in both fixtures was Bernardo Silva. And then Rodri, we spoke about his attacking returns being decent this season, but he's had attacking returns in both fixtures. So he had an assist in the game week 10 match, coming away with 7 points. And then he had 2 assists in the game week 26 match with 9 points. So does show up for the big games, Rodri. Walker and Diaz were the only 2 defenders that actually started in both, but there have been a few injury problems and stuff with Man City, and we've seen them change their backline a lot. We do expect probably that Walker and Diaz will start, and you'd expect that Vardy will be thrown in there as well. He's been too good to drop. The question mark will probably be around Akanji and Ake joining those three. I would probably lean towards Akanji, but you do never know with Pep Guardiola. They've got Stones on the bench, who's an incredible option. They did bring Ake off the bench in the West Ham match, so maybe he's on the brink. One thing I did maybe consider is that Man United do have a lot of pace, and we did see a strange drop-in of Diaz for the Liverpool game fairly previously, and they brought Akanji into the back line with Ake and Walker, and they had John Stones joining the midfield. And then when they interviewed Guardiola after the game, they said that that was due to Liverpool's pace. So maybe if Pep's overthinking, maybe that's something that he brings into it. But I'd expect it would be Walker, Diaz, Vardiol, and then one of Akanji or Ake. Looking at United, so you had Bruno Fernandes assisted in one of the games, but only 9 points over the two. He did, however, hit tackles in both. Rashford grabbed the goal in the Gameweek 26 fixture. Obviously, there wasn't one in the Gameweek 10 fixture where it finished 3-0. But one goal, 10 points across the two, just one shot on target. Onana, as you expect, was busy. So 7 saves made in the Gameweek 10 fixture and 5 in the Gameweek 26. But he did only finish with 4 points across the two games because they've conceded 6 goals. So the save points are good, but you need to keep the goals low to not keep conceding these minus points. And then Dallo, just the 3 points across 2 games. It was 1 ppm of getting free bonus in the second fixture, so in Gameweek 26. But overall, I wouldn't be favouring the Man United defence, really. Right, onto my team update. Please leave a like if you found any of this useful, or just if you've been following along for the season, you've enjoyed the content. Let us know how you got on last week as well, how you're getting on in your mini leagues as the season comes to a close. I was 174th overall at the start of the week. However, I have dropped down to 213th. I feel like I may have dropped the ball a little bit right at the end. Like I've mentioned, I was at the Arsenal game for that final game of the season, and it was so hard to try and keep an eye on team leaks and all that sort of stuff because I just had limited signal, limited access to anything. I was getting real shaky before the deadline. I was trying to keep up with Twitter news and stuff like that, but I was getting absolutely no signal. So I just ended up sticking to my normal plan. But 62 points for the game week. I'm still on track to get my best ever finish. So my best ever finish was 350. I'm at 213. So hopefully I'll be there. But it looks like I may have fallen. I probably have fallen too far behind to get that top 100 finish. And if I can get back inside the top 200 on the final game week, I'll take that. Bernardo Silva and Ortega came in for me for Isak and David Raya. So there was absolutely nothing in the goalkeeper move, really. I was just thinking that if I did swap Ortega in for Raya, I'd get the extra fixture because I was pretty happy with the rest of my team. Isak to Bernardo, though, this was the one that annoyed me. So I had my eye on Bernardo anyway to get him in. I did think that there was a chance that taking out Isak could be dangerous. I've got a bit of a reputation about taking strikers out before they do well. But Bernardo Silva finished on 7 points, which I didn't think was a terrible return. But Isak, 16 points, was a real kick in the teeth. 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 shots on target. So on my way to the game, limited access. And I saw fake rumours on Twitter that Isak wasn't starting, which was starting to make me feel a little bit justified in taking him out, to be fair. I thought, okay, well, that's fine. Looks like my moves are pretty straightforward for this week. I'll push ahead. But I did keep checking on the scores, but my phone just, not on the scores, on the lineups or on the leaks, but just nothing was loading for me. Where there's just so many people at the ground, I just cannot get a signal on Twitter or anything like that. And I wasn't getting any news through. So I just stuck with that. I didn't know. I just assumed that Isak was probably going to be benched for some reason. But one that did really annoy me is that I didn't hear any news on the Saka benching pre-deadline. Now, I don't know if that was even spread around before the deadline. I was obviously with a load of Arsenal fans that didn't know that Saka was out of the lineup either until the actual lineups came out, which was obviously too late for Dream Team. But yeah, I had absolutely no idea that Saka was going to be benched. Let us know if you knew that before deadline. But otherwise, if I did, I probably would have been keeping hold of Isak for this one. So that was a bit of a shame. Obviously, Saka's been a doubt for 75% of the season, I think, at this point, and he does always seem to go on to play. So it was a bit gutting that I ended up with a player not playing, but 7 points for Bernardo Silva versus 16 points for Isak was a little bit frustrating. So 4,100 points in total. Ortega 2 points. Vardiol finished on 5. Gabriel with 2. Ben White with 2. No clean sheets for City or Arsenal. Phil Foden with the 17. Palmer with 5. De Bruyne with 8. And Silva with 7. Erling Haaland, just the 4 points with the armband. I wasn't taking any risks with a differential captain, but there was a lot of good differential captains out there this week. So well played if you went for one. And then Son with a 10-pointer, finally doing something for me in this team. Here's how my team is looking for next week currently with no moves made. So like I said, we're going to get 2 transfers for the final, which will put me on 8 playing players, hopefully, if nothing goes wrong. So Ortega, Vardiol, Foden, De Bruyne, Silva, and Haaland make up my 6 currently. I'll then be looking to bring 2 City players into my team. I'm not interested in bringing in any United players. I will likely be bringing in Rodri because this week I was deciding between Silva and Rodri. So I'll probably bring Rodri into my team. It doesn't matter who for at this point. So it could be Saka, Palmer, Son, whatever. I'm undecided on the second move. So I could either obviously bring in another attacker / midfielder or an extra defender. But currently having sort of 2 City defenders, I'm thinking I might just keep it like that because for whatever reason, if there is a big haul, I feel like it's more likely to come from a midfielder or an attacker. So I'm leaning towards probably just bringing sort of 2 midfielders into my team, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm hoping we'll get some sort of lineups on Saturday before the kickoff. But yeah, that's my current thinking. Rodri, and then take your pick, really. It could be a Doku. If we get news that Alvarez is playing, it could be him. Could go for another defender, even. We'll have to wait and see what the lineups say. Kovacic, probably not going to be on the list. And then captaincy, I'm probably going to just play safe with Haaland again, to be honest with you. I've given you my differential captains. Maybe if you're chasing in your mini leagues and you want to go for something a bit different, I'd go for Foden if I wasn't on Haaland. But I think I probably will still be keeping Haaland. One thing I have been thinking about is next season and playing a bit different. We are going to have a Dream Team Tonic end of season review on the Dream Team Tonic podcast, and maybe for next season I'll start playing a little bit more aggressively. We'll discuss that on our next podcast coming up next week. But thank you very much for watching and following along for the season. Do give us a follow here and over on the Dream Team Tonic podcast. We're going to be doing plenty of Euro 2024 content throughout the summer. I've already got my How to Play Euro 2024 Dream Team up. I'll add a link to this video at the end. But just, wanted to say thank you for joining us for the season and hope to see you at the Euros. Thanks. Goodbye.